Steve Harvey went silent when a homeless mother said she lost her kids. What he did next shocked everyone. In a world where struggles often remain hidden, one mother's heartbreaking confession would bring the audience to their feet and spark a movement of compassion. This isn't just a story. It's a powerful reminder of the human spirit's resilience and the unexpected connections that can change lives forever. Brace yourself, because what unfolds next will leave you breathless. In the bustling studio of the Steve Harvey Show, the bright lights illuminated a sea of eager faces, but one stood out among the rest. Maria, a mother with a heart full of pain and a story that demanded to be heard. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement, but for Maria, it felt as if time had slowed down, each heartbeat echoing her mounting anxiety. Once, Maria had been a beacon of hope in her community, a vibrant woman who dreamed of a future filled with laughter, warmth, and joy for her children. She envisioned family outings to the park, birthday parties bursting with balloons and cake, and the simple pleasure of watching her kids grow, learn, and thrive. Those dreams painted a beautiful picture of life, one where her children would know happiness and security. But as the years passed, life's cruel twists began to unravel her dreams, leading her down a dark path that stripped away everything she had fought so hard to build. Then came the storm, a sudden job loss that felt like a punch to the gut. The stability she had worked tirelessly to provide crumbled in an instant. Bills piled up like mountains, each one a relentless reminder of her struggle. The strain of financial hardship weighed heavily on her shoulders, and the relentless grip of despair began to seep into her spirit. With each setback, Maria watched helplessly as her children slipped further from her grasp. First, into the care of relatives who could provide for them better, and then into the cold, impersonal hands of the system that was supposed to help families like hers. The day Maria stood backstage at the studio, her heart raced with anxiety and uncertainty. She could hear the muffled sounds of the audience beyond the curtain, a sea of faces eager for entertainment, unaware of the storm brewing inside her. Would she be able to share her truth? Could she find the strength to voice the depths of her suffering? Would they understand the pain of a mother who had lost everything? With a deep, shaky breath, she stepped into the light, ready to reveal the heart-wrenching reality of her experience. Her anguish, her regrets, and her unwavering love for her children. As she took her place on stage, the spotlight felt like a weight, illuminating not just her face, but also the shadows of her past. Maria's voice trembled as she began to speak, each word a fragile thread connecting her story to the audience. She shared her journey, the heartbreak of separation, and the moments of despair that had almost consumed her. As her story unfolded, the collective breath of the audience hung in the air, each listener captivated by the raw honesty of her narrative. But little did Maria know, this confession would set off a chain reaction that would change her life forever. In that moment of vulnerability, she would not only confront her own fears, but also ignite a spark of empathy in the hearts of those listening. This was just the beginning of a journey filled with hope and transformation, one that would resonate far beyond the studio walls. The applause from the audience echoed in Maria's ears, a tidal wave of sound that washed over her as she stepped off the stage. She had done it. She had shared her truth. But as the adrenaline faded, the reality of her situation came crashing down. Though the audience had listened intently, offering their support through their applause, she still felt the weight of her struggles pressing heavily on her heart. The stark contrast between the exhilaration of the moment and the lingering pain of her reality was overwhelming. In the days that followed her appearance on the Steve Harvey show, Maria found herself reflecting deeply on her journey, navigating a complex mix of hope and fear. The world outside the studio felt both familiar and foreign, as if she were seeing it through a new lens. She returned to her small apartment, a place that had become a battleground of her emotions. The walls, once filled with laughter and joy, now echoed with silence and sorrow. Each room held memories that tugged at her heartstrings. Her son's toys scattered in the living room, remnants of a childhood filled with laughter. Her daughter's drawings taped to the fridge, vibrant expressions of creativity that now felt like distant dreams. And the empty chairs at the dining table, a stark reminder of family meals that were once filled with chatter and warmth. Determined to change the narrative of her life, Maria began to take small, deliberate steps toward rebuilding her future. She reached out to local organizations that offered support for parents in distress, seeking guidance and resources to help her navigate the tumultuous waters of her situation. With every phone call she made, she felt a flicker of hope rekindle inside her, a realization that she was not alone in this fight. The first meeting she attended was daunting. The room was filled with strangers, each with their own heartaches and stories. Yet, as they began to share their experiences, Maria felt an unbreakable bond forming. They were all there for the same reason: to reclaim their lives, to find strength in vulnerability, and to support one another through the challenges they faced. As the weeks turned into months, Maria immersed herself in the support group, finding solace in the shared experiences of other mothers. She formed friendships that became lifelines, each woman offering understanding and encouragement. One evening, as they sat in a circle, sharing their stories, Maria met Angela, a fellow mother whose journey mirrored her own. Angela's story resonated deeply with Maria. She too had battled the system, navigating the complexities of custody battles. And her resilience inspired Maria to dig deeper within herself. They exchanged phone numbers, and soon they became each other's support system. Late-night phone calls turned into brainstorming sessions about how to advocate for their children. And together, they developed strategies to navigate the legal maze that threatened to keep them apart. With Angela's encouragement, Maria decided to take the next step. She enrolled in a parenting class that emphasized not only practical skills, but emotional resilience as well. The classes opened her eyes to new ways of thinking and coping. She learned about the importance of self-care, setting boundaries, and the power of forgiveness, not just for others, but for herself. Slowly, she began to reclaim pieces of herself that she thought were lost forever. The act of journaling became a sanctuary for her thoughts, allowing her to articulate her feelings and dreams on paper. Each entry was a step toward healing, a way to process the tumult of emotions that swirled within her. As she continued her journey of self-discovery, Maria found herself drawn to community events that promoted family bonding. She attended workshops on financial literacy, determined to secure a stable future for her family. With each skill acquired, she felt a renewed sense of empowerment. She was no longer just a victim of circumstance. She was a warrior, fighting for her family's future. The more she learned, the more confident she became in her ability to provide for her children. However, the journey was not without setbacks. One afternoon, as Maria sat at her kitchen table, the weight of her circumstances pressed down on her like a heavy fog. She received a letter from the court regarding her custody case, and her heart sank as she read the words that felt like a punch to the gut. The judge required evidence of her stability before considering reunification with her children. Doubt crept in, and her mind raced with fears of failure. She questioned whether she was doing enough, whether she could truly overcome the obstacles in her way. The uncertainty was paralyzing, and for a moment, she felt like she was back at square one. But in that moment of uncertainty, Mariah thought of her children, their laughter, their innocent smiles, and the love they shared. She reminded herself that this was not just about her. It was about them. With renewed determination, she reached out to Angela and her support group, sharing her fears and seeking guidance. Together, they rallied around her, providing encouragement and practical advice. They brainstormed ways to gather the necessary documentation to present to the court, each woman sharing her strategies and resources. Maria learned to channel her fears into action. She sought out community resources that could provide documentation of her progress and stability, building a portfolio that showcased her commitment to improving her situation. Each small victory bolstered her confidence, and she began to believe in herself again. She started attending therapy sessions, working through the emotions that had long been buried beneath the surface. The therapist encouraged her to visualize her goals, to see her children with her again, and to believe that it was possible. As she prepared for the upcoming court date, Maria felt a mix of anxiety and hope swirling within her. She knew she was ready to fight for her family, armed with the strength she had cultivated through her journey. The night before the hearing, she stayed up late, reviewing her notes and practicing what she would say. She wanted to be articulate and composed, to convey not just her struggles, but also her determination to create a better life for her children. The morning of the court date arrived, and Maria dressed with care, choosing an outfit that made her feel both confident and grounded. As she looked in the mirror, she took a moment to remind herself of her journey, the obstacles she had overcome, and the progress she had made. She was not the same woman who had walked onto that stage months ago. She was stronger, more resilient, and ready to reclaim her life. As she entered the courtroom, her heart raced, but her resolve was unwavering. She would not let fear dictate her future. Instead, she would face the challenges head-on, ready to reclaim her dreams for herself and her children. The battle was just beginning, but she knew that with each step she took, she was moving closer to the life she envisioned, a life filled with love, laughter, and the joy of being reunited with her family. The air in the courtroom was thick with tension as Maria took her seat, her heart pounding in her chest. The wooden benches were filled with strangers, each one seemingly absorbed in their own world. But for Maria, this was the most critical moment of her life. She glanced around, catching sight of the judge's imposing figure seated high above the proceedings, and felt a wave of anxiety wash over her. Would this person understand her struggle? Would they see beyond the paperwork and the legal jargon to the mother desperate to reunite with her children? As the hearing commenced, Maria listened intently to the proceedings. Her attorney, a compassionate woman named Lisa, stood beside her, ready to advocate for her case. Lisa had been a beacon of hope throughout this process, guiding Maria through the complexities of the legal system and helping her prepare for this very moment. With a reassuring smile, Lisa leaned in and whispered, "Just remember to speak from your heart. They need to hear your truth." The opposing attorney, a stern man with a reputation for being relentless, began presenting his case against Maria. He outlined her past struggles, emphasizing the job, loss, and the subsequent impact on her parenting. Each word felt like a dagger, reopening wounds that had begun to heal. Maria fought against the feelings of shame and guilt that threatened to overwhelm her, reminding herself of the progress she had made. She had faced her demons, taken steps to reclaim her life and was no longer defined by her past. When it was finally her turn to speak, Maria felt a surge of adrenaline. She stood up, her hands trembling slightly as she approached the stand. The room fell silent, all eyes on her. She took a deep breath, grounding herself in the moment, and began to recount her journey, the hardships, the heartache, and the hope that had fueled her fight for her children. "Your Honor," she began, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. "I stand before you not just as a mother seeking custody, but as a woman who has fought to overcome adversity. I made mistakes, yes, but I have learned from them. I am committed to doing everything in my power to provide a stable and loving home for my children." As she spoke, Maria felt a shift in the room. She could see the judge leaning in, listening intently to her words. She shared her experiences in the parenting classes, the support she had received from her community, and the steps she had taken to improve her financial situation. She painted a picture of a future filled with hope, dreams, and the love she had for her children. "Every day, I wake up thinking about them," she continued, her voice trembling slightly. "I dream of the day when I can hold them in my arms again, when we can create new memories together. I am determined to be the mother they deserve." As she spoke, Maria glanced at the audience, her support group sitting in the back, their faces filled with encouragement. Angela gave her a thumbs up, and Maria felt a surge of confidence. She was not alone in this fight. She had a community rallying behind her, believing in her. After her testimony, the judge asked Maria a series of questions, probing into her plans for the future and how she intended to provide for her children. Each question was met with a thoughtful response, Maria articulating her vision clearly. She spoke of her plans to continue her education, to secure a stable job, and to create a nurturing environment for her children to thrive. Finally, it was time for the judge to make a ruling. Maria's heart raced as she sat back down, her mind swirling with possibilities. The judge took a moment to review the evidence presented before him, and then his gaze shifted to Maria. "Ms. Rodriguez," he began, his voice steady and measured. "I appreciate your honesty and your willingness to confront your past. It is clear that you have made significant strides in your journey toward stability and self-improvement. However, I must also consider the best interests of your children." The words hung in the air, and Maria felt a knot tighten in her stomach. "The kind," judge continued, detailing the challenges she had faced, but also acknowledging the progress she had made. "I am willing to grant you supervised visitation rights as a starting point," he stated, "with the understanding that you will continue to demonstrate your commitment to your children's welfare." A wave of relief washed over Maria, followed by a sense of determination. Although it wasn't the full custody she had envisioned, it was a step forward, a chance to rebuild her relationship with her children. As the judge concluded the hearing, Maria felt tears of gratitude welling in her eyes. She had fought for this moment, and while the battle was not over, she had taken a significant step toward reclaiming her family. After the hearing, as Maria exited the courtroom, she was enveloped in a warm embrace from Angela. "You did it. This is just the beginning," Angela exclaimed, her eyes shining with pride. Other members of the support group joined her, offering words of encouragement and congratulations. With renewed hope, Maria realized that she was not just fighting for her children. She was also reclaiming her own identity and power. This experience had ignited a fire within her, a determination to continue advocating for her family and to show the world that she could rise above her circumstances. In the weeks that followed, Maria embraced her supervised visitation with her children wholeheartedly. Each visit was filled with laughter, stories, and the warmth of connection. She cherished every moment, working tirelessly to create an environment where her children felt loved and safe. As she watched them play and grow, she felt a sense of purpose that fueled her efforts to build a better life. Maria continued to attend her parenting classes and support group meetings, finding strength in the community that had uplifted her. She shared her triumphs and challenges, celebrating small victories along the way. With each passing day, she was reminded that healing was a journey, not a destination, as she prepared for her next court date to discuss further custody arrangements. Maria felt a blend of excitement and nervousness. She knew she had more work to do, but she was ready to fight for the life she had always dreamed of. One filled with love, laughter, and the joy of being reunited with her children. Maria's heart raced as the day of her next court hearing approached. The anticipation was almost unbearable. She had spent countless hours preparing, gathering documents, and creating a detailed plan that outlined her progress and future goals. This hearing was crucial. It would determine the next step in her journey toward full custody of her children. She felt a mix of excitement and anxiety, knowing that she was not just fighting for herself, but for the future of her family. In the weeks leading up to the hearing, Maria focused intently on her visits with her children. Each moment was precious, and she made it a point to create meaningful experiences that would reinforce their bond. Whether it was baking cookies together or taking long walks in the park, she poured her heart into every interaction. She wanted them to see that she was working hard to become the mother they deserved, and that they could trust her again. During one visit, Maria sat on the floor of the living room, surrounded by her children's drawings and toys. Her daughter, Sophia, excitedly showed her a picture she had drawn of their family, complete with colorful rainbows and hearts. "Look, Mommy, this is us together," Sophia exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with joy. Maria felt a wave of emotion wash over her. This simple drawing was a testament to the love that still existed between them. It reminded her of what she was fighting for. As the day of the hearing drew closer, Maria leaned heavily on her support network. Angela and the other mothers from her group rallied around her, offering encouragement and sharing their own experiences. They reminded her that she was not alone in this journey, and that advocating for her children was a courageous and noble cause. Their support fortified her resolve, and she felt empowered by their belief in her. The night before the hearing, Maria sat at her kitchen table, reviewing her notes and practicing her statements. She envisioned walking into the courtroom, confident and prepared. But despite her preparations, she couldn't shake the anxiety that gripped her. The fear of the unknown loomed large. What if the judge didn't see her progress? What if she failed? In an effort to calm her nerves, she turned to her journal, pouring her thoughts onto the pages. Writing had always been a source of solace for her, helping her to process her emotions and articulate her dreams. As she wrote, she reminded herself of the journey she had undertaken, the battles she had fought, and the strength she had discovered within herself. She was not the same woman who had walked into that studio months ago. She was a warrior, ready to reclaim her life and her family. When the morning of the hearing arrived, Maria dressed with purpose, choosing a simple but elegant outfit that made her feel confident. As she looked in the mirror, she took a moment to reflect on her journey. She had faced her fears, sought help, and worked tirelessly to improve her circumstances. She was ready to show the judge the woman she had become. Arriving at the courthouse, Maria felt a rush of emotions. The building loomed large and intimidating, but she reminded herself of the support she had behind her. Lisa, her attorney, greeted her with a warm smile, reassuring her that they were well prepared. As they walked into the courtroom, Maria's heart raced, but she focused on the faces of her children, who would be waiting for her outside. The hearing began, and Maria took her seat, her palms sweaty as she listened to the proceedings. The opposing attorney presented his case again, highlighting Maria's past, struggles, and questioning her ability to provide a stable environment for her children. But Maria was ready this time. She had gathered evidence of her progress, certificates from her parenting classes, letters of recommendation from her support group, and her financial plans. When it was her turn to speak, Maria stood before the judge once more. This time, she felt an inner strength that propelled her forward. "Your Honor," she began, her voice steady, "I stand before you today, not just asking for custody of my children, but to show you how far I've come. I am committed to being the best mother I can be, and I have taken every step necessary to ensure that I can provide a safe and loving home for them." She presented her case with passion, detailing her journey and the changes she had made in her life. She spoke of the parenting classes she had completed, the job she had secured, and the stable environment she was creating for her children. As she spoke, she saw the judge's expression soften slightly, and she felt a surge of hope. Maria also shared the importance of her children's emotional well-being, emphasizing how their bond had remained intact despite the circumstances. "My children need me just as much as I need them," she continued. "I want to rebuild our family and create a home filled with love and support. I know I can do this, and I am ready to prove it." After her testimony, the judge asked thoughtful questions, seeking to understand her plans for the future. Maria answered each one with clarity and conviction, outlining her goals and the resources she had in place to support her journey. She could sense the gravity of the moment, and she remained focused on her children's needs. Finally, it was time for the judge to make a ruling. The room was silent as he reviewed the evidence and reflected on Maria's journey. Maria's heart raced as she awaited his decision, her hopes and dreams hanging in the balance. After what felt like an eternity, the judge looked up and addressed her directly. "Ms. Rodriguez," he began, his voice steady and calm, "I commend you for the progress you've made and your dedication to your children. It is clear that you have taken significant steps to improve your circumstances and provide a loving environment for them." Maria's heart soared at his words, but she held her breath as he continued. "I am willing to grant you extended visitation rights, moving toward a reunification plan. This will include regular visits and progress reviews to ensure that you continue on this positive path." Tears filled Maria's eyes as she processed the judge's words. It wasn't full custody yet, but it was a significant step in the right direction. She could feel the warmth of hope blossoming in her chest, and she knew that she was one step closer to the family she had longed for. As she left the courtroom, Maria was greeted by the smiling faces of her support group, who were waiting outside with open arms. They surrounded her in a joyful embrace, celebrating this victory together. Angela held her tightly, tears of happiness streaming down her cheeks. "You did it. This is just the beginning, Maria," she exclaimed, her voice filled with pride. In the days that followed, Maria embraced her extended visitation with her children. Each visit was filled with laughter, storytelling, and the joy of reconnecting. She worked diligently to create a nurturing environment, ensuring that her children felt safe and loved. With every moment spent together, she felt the bond between them strengthen, and she was reminded of the power of love and resilience. Maria continued to attend her parenting classes and support group meetings, leaning on her community for encouragement. She shared her triumphs, her challenges, and the joy of watching her children flourish during their visits. She knew that the journey ahead would be filled with ups and downs, but she was ready to face whatever challenges came her way. As she prepared for the next phase of her reunification plan, Maria felt a sense of purpose that fueled her every action. She was no longer just a woman fighting against the odds. She was a mother determined to reclaim her family and create a future filled with love, stability, and hope. The sun filtered through the curtains of Maria's apartment, casting warm rays across the room. It was a new day, a new beginning, and Maria felt a sense of optimism that she hadn't experienced in a long time. After the recent court ruling granting her extended visitation rights, she was more motivated than ever to build a stable and loving environment for her children. The journey was far from over, but she was ready to embrace the challenges ahead. Maria started her mornings with intention, using her journal to set goals for the day. She wrote down affirmations, reminding herself of her strength and resilience. I am a loving mother. I am capable. I am creating a safe home for my children. Each affirmation was a step toward solidifying her identity and purpose. She understood that the work she put in not only benefited her, but also set an example for her children. With her newfound determination, Maria enrolled in a local community college to pursue a degree in early childhood education. The decision was fueled by her desire to understand child development better and to become a resource for her own children and others in her community. She wanted to be equipped with the knowledge to foster a nurturing environment that encouraged growth and learning. The classes were challenging, but the excitement of learning something new invigorated her. In addition to her studies, Maria continued to work part-time at a local grocery store, where she had developed friendships with her co-workers. They were supportive and often cheered her on during her journey. Every paycheck was a step toward financial independence, and Maria meticulously budgeted her expenses to ensure that she could provide for her children and save for their future. As her visits with Sophia and Miguel increased, Maria made it a priority to create special moments that her children would cherish. She planned outings that combined fun and learning, trips to the local museum, nature walks, and cooking together in the kitchen. Each activity was designed to strengthen their bond and create lasting memories. Maria knew that these moments were not just about spending time together. They were about rebuilding trust and love. One Saturday morning, Maria invited her children over for a pancake breakfast. The smell of fresh pancakes filled the apartment as she flipped them onto plates, her heart swelling with joy as she set the table with colorful fruit and syrup. When Sophia and Miguel arrived, their eyes lit up at the sight of the spread. Maria encouraged them to help in the kitchen, guiding them in pouring batter onto the griddle and mixing fresh fruit into their pancakes. As they sat together at the table, laughter filled the air. They shared stories about their week, and Maria listened intently, celebrating their accomplishments and comforting them through their challenges. These moments were precious to her, a reminder of the family they were rebuilding together. During one of these visits, Maria decided to introduce the concept of family traditions. "How about we start a movie night every Friday?" she suggested, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "We can pick a theme each week and make popcorn." Both children's faces lit up with enthusiasm, and they quickly began brainstorming themes: superheroes, animated classics, and adventure stories. As the weeks passed, movie nights became a cherished tradition. They would snuggle on the couch, blankets piled high, as they watched their favorite films. Maria loved seeing her children's faces light up during the funny parts and hearing their giggles echo through the room. Each movie night was more than just entertainment. It was a reminder of the love and connection they were fostering together. Despite the joy of these moments, Maria also faced challenges. Balancing work, school, and parenting was no easy feat. There were days when exhaustion threatened to overwhelm her, and self-doubt crept in. Would she be able to maintain this pace? Would she be able to achieve her goals and keep her family together? On those tough days, she leaned on her support group, attending meetings and sharing her struggles. The women in her group offered empathy and encouragement, reminding her that it was okay to feel overwhelmed at times. One evening, after a particularly long day, Maria sat at her kitchen table, her head resting in her hands. She felt a wave of frustration wash over her as she stared at her assignments, the coursework piling up. It was in these moments of doubt that she remembered her affirmations. She pulled out her journal, flipping to the pages where she had written her goals. Reading through them reignited her determination. She was capable, and she had the strength to overcome any obstacle. As the months rolled on, Maria's hard work began to pay off. She received positive feedback from her professors and even earned a scholarship for her dedication to her studies. This recognition bolstered her confidence, and she felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was not just working for herself. She was creating a future for her children, a legacy of resilience and hope. The day of her next court review approached, and Maria felt a mix of excitement and nerves. This meeting would determine her progress in the reunification plan and the next steps toward full custody. She spent hours preparing, gathering her documentation, and reflecting on her journey. With each piece of evidence, she felt more confident in the progress she had made. On the day of the hearing, Maria arrived at the courthouse with her support group by her side. As they walked in together, she felt a surge of gratitude for the community that had uplifted her during her darkest moments. In the courtroom, the judge reviewed her progress, noting her commitment to education, stable employment, and the positive changes in her parenting. "Ms. Rodriguez," the judge said, looking directly at her, "it is clear that you have made significant strides in your journey as a mother. I commend you for your dedication to your children and your willingness to improve your circumstances." Maria's heart soared as the judge continued. "I believe it is in the best interest of your children to move toward a shared custody arrangement. This will allow for continued growth and bonding between you and your children." Overwhelmed with emotion, Maria felt tears of joy streaming down her face. It wasn't full custody yet, but it was a monumental step in the right direction. The judge's ruling reaffirmed her commitment to her family and the hard work she had put into her journey. As she left the courtroom, she was greeted with cheers and hugs from her support group. Angela beamed with pride, and Maria felt the warmth of community surrounding her. In the following weeks, Maria embraced her new shared custody arrangement. The joy of having her children more frequently filled her heart with purpose. She continued to prioritize their emotional well-being, ensuring that they felt loved and supported every step of the way. As they settled into their new routine, Maria reflected on how far she had come. She had transformed her life through perseverance and a deep love for her children. She was no longer just surviving. She was thriving, building a future filled with hope and possibility. Every day was a step forward, and Maria was ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. With her children by her side, she felt unstoppable, determined to create a life rich with love, laughter, and countless cherished memories.